The Little Mermaid is out and it was amazing if I do say so myself. So let's talk about this movie. As always, this video will have spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, head over to my shorts or my TikTok and check out my one take movie review on this movie. But without further ado, let's talk about The Little Mermaid. This movie is easily one of Disney's best live action remakes, and honestly, this is everything a remake should be. This movie was so much fun, it was vibrant, and the music, as expected, was amazing, and that is partly because of Halle Bailey. But let's get into what this movie was about. So this movie follows Ariel as she is curious about the surface world. When she meets Prince Eric, she makes a deal with Ursula to become human, but must get a kiss of true love without her voice in order to not become prisoner to Ursula forever. Alright, you know the deal, let's get into the good. And the standout of this movie, the person that carried this thing on her back, was Halle Bailey. It's no question that Halle absolutely killed it as Ariel, as she embodied this character of Ariel to a T. Her voice was obviously amazing in every song that she was in, and her character had a lot more depth, which I'll touch on in a second. But one of her highlights of her performance for me, and this was kind of talked about before the movie, but her performance of Part of Your World was it was outstanding. There were two people behind me in the theater. One was crying after she performed that song because it was beautiful. It was amazing, and her voice was angelic through that whole entire song. She was even harmonizing in the background of Under the Sea, which kind of caught me off guard, to be honest, but oh my gosh, when I heard it, I was like, wow, like it was perfect. Outside of her voice, I'll also add on that her acting was pretty good as well. I mean, she couldn't talk for half of the movie because obviously Ariel lost her voice. And I don't think people realize how hard that is to act and convey emotion without using your voice. So kudos to Halle Bailey. This was her movie and she absolutely killed it. And next up for the good is that the characters in this movie, more specifically Ariel and Eric, were much more well-rounded and fleshed out and had a lot more depth to them than the original. And I think this is one of the main reasons that made this movie so good and helped set itself apart from the original. Not only did we expand on Ariel's character, but we also went way deeper into Eric's character, which made their relationship more meaningful and have a lot more weight and emotion. For instance, when we saw Eric's collection of things that he had from the ocean, just like Ariel's collection of things that she had from the surface world, it really just showed that these two characters are the same people from different worlds, and that angle that they decided to go with these characters was just so cool. And I think honestly it made it a little bit better than the original, in my opinion, when it came to Eric and Ariel's relationship. Essentially, these two are both outcasts of their world, and that's what allowed them to connect. And for us as the audience, it made us care about that relationship even more, knowing that they had all of this in common. Next up, I have to give a hats off for Melissa McCarthy because she was phenomenal as Ursula. She really nailed this role, and her version of Poor Unfortunate Souls was so good. All of her mannerisms and her voice just made it feel like they pulled Ursula straight from the original movie and just plopped her right here into the live action movie, and it was just amazing. She was a menacing villain and honestly had a pretty good reason to do what she did, even though it was completely terribly evil. But she fit into this cast well, into this movie well, and I just could not talk about this movie without talking about Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. And finally, for the good is the story. Now, yes, the story did follow a lot of the main plot points from the original, but they expanded on those plot points and went way deeper, which made this story a little bit better and set itself apart from the original movie. Like I said before, they expanded on the characters of Ariel and Eric and spent way more time on building that relationship, which honestly was the heart of this movie. And they also did a good job at explaining why humans and mermaids dislike each other. Now, these are things that might seem like small additions to the story, but once you got to the end of the movie, you realize that those small little things that they added and decided to go deeper into really helped the payoff at the end of the movie. Now let's get into the so-so. And the first thing I have here is the new songs. Now overall, I like the new songs, two in particular, and that was a song by Eric, which was in the beginning of the movie. Thought that song was really good. And then there was a song later in the movie by Ariel, which I thought was phenomenal. Now both of these songs fit into the movie perfectly, and I thought they were performed very well and they deserve to be in this movie. But there was one song that I just didn't like, and it's the reason why I have the new songs in the so-so and not in the good, and that was the song by Scuttle. I guess it was more of a rap song by Scuttle, but when it happened in the movie, it just felt really weird and out of place and really didn't match this movie tonally. Again, the other two songs were great, they were perfect. I thought they were a good fit for this movie, but that Scuttle song slash rap just didn't work for me in my opinion. Next up, I have the visuals. Now overall, as a whole, I thought the visuals were fine, and I don't really think the trailers did the visuals justice, because in the trailers, the colors seemed very dark for some reason. That could be because the movie probably wasn't all the way polished up yet. But once I got into the theater and I was watching the movie, all of the parts that were under the sea, no pun intended there, were very vibrant, very colorful, especially when they did the actual performance for Under the Sea. I thought that was one of the best parts of the movie. CGI was great there. Visually, it was just stunning to look at. And obviously, once we got on land, everything was fine there. But the reason I do have this in the so-so is because in the beginning, there were some shots that probably needed to be touched up just a little bit. Nothing big, it was nothing that took you out of the movie, but it was something that I definitely noticed right there in the beginning. For some reason, it just didn't seem like those shots were as good as once we got to the middle and then obviously the end of the movie. But overall, the visuals, they were fine. As I said, it was nothing too dramatic, nothing that would take you out of the movie, but it is something you kind of noticed there, right there in the beginning of the movie. But other than that, they were fine. And finally, let's get into the bad. Now, this movie didn't really have much I disliked. I really enjoyed it. It was a good movie. But if I have to pick something for the bad and be nitpicky, I'm gonna pick that there were moments in this movie that were just a little bit cringy. Now, I obviously get that this movie is aimed towards kids, so this is expected. But there were a fair share of cringe moments. These moments were not a big deal at all. As an adult watching this, you can look at these cringe moments and kind of just laugh it off and keep it going, because at the end of the day, these moments kind of added to the humor and charm of this movie. So I guess this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if I had to put something in the bad category, it would be these cringe moments. But again, they were fine. It was no big deal. It was funny, I laughed it off, and we kept it moving. So with all that said, The Little Mermaid is exactly what a remake should be. It stays true to the original while adding its own flair to set itself apart. Halle Bailey was amazing, and the story had a lot more depth, which I really enjoyed. This movie was fun, vibrant, and is a good remake to the original Little Mermaid. Those are my thoughts on The Little Mermaid. As always, be sure to let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, get your Eazy Apparel at shop easyapparel.com. God bless, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.